I know it's playoff time, but we're going to talk about Cleveland and their quarterback situation because finally, Shedeur Sanders is QB1.
The barbershop is open and Tony Wiggins has a chair for you. He's ready with some real NFL talk. The local experts of Locked On bring their expertise, and Wiggy is ready with his clippers and shears. Sit down and enjoy. The new Locked On NFL starts now. Locked On Podcast Network. Your team every day.
It is your team every day here on Locked On NFL, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, the #1 sports podcast network. We thank you for making us your first listen. I am Tony Wiggins, the host of The Barbershop, and it is Tuesday. That means my main man, Kevin Oestreicher, is here with us from Locked On Ravens. We use local experts and their clips from around our network to kind of keep you abreast of what's going on from the people that have their finger on the pulse of the organization, and that's exactly what we're going to do today. Make sure that wherever you get your podcast, whether you watch or listen, you tap into that location. Like, for instance, the one you're listening to today or watching. Today's episode is brought to you by FanDuel. That's right, FanDuel, man. Today's sponsor. If you want to be right in the middle of the action this season, visit FanDuel.com and place your NFL live bets all season long. All season long, we have been talking about Shedeur Sanders, Kevin Oestreicher. So we're going to start the show talking about him being QB1 in Cleveland. We'll move and transition to the Chargers getting closer to a playoff berth, whether they can catch Denver. And then we'll talk about the Pittsburgh Steelers, not the Baltimore Ravens, being in front in the AFC North. And then at the end, up and down teams down the stretch. Both of them are going to surprise you. So let's just start at the very top. A lot of talk about Cleveland. So this is why I wanted to discuss this today. You down with talking about Shedeur in the first segment, correct?
Yeah.
Okay.
Let's do it. I'm ready.
But here's the thing, Cam. There's some teams that may still have to play Cleveland that are vying for a playoff spot. I think with him in the lineup, those games get harder because all they needed to score in a lot of these games was 17 to 20 points, and they couldn't even do it. And now they're scoring at a higher clip, and they still got that real good defense. The other thing is, I think it affects the top of the NFL draft. And outside of myself, normally I'm worried about the draft, but there's a lot of teams from around the league. That's all they have to talk about right now because their team is not in the playoffs. You think Shedeur, if he plays well these last few games, does enough for Cleveland and not have to consider a quarterback in round one?
Yeah, 100%. And I think that, ideally, that's what they want. That's what any team would want is, you're able to find your guy and then have the opportunity to plug up another hole somewhere else where we talk about that. I talk about this all the time on this show. It's like, when you have a good roster and a good year, you're always looking ahead to the playoffs. You're like, all right, how can we improve our team? How can we get ourselves in position to make the postseason, go on a long run? When you're in a position like Cleveland, you just have to find positives throughout the course of a lost season. And this is exactly what's happening here, where, Shedeur is finally getting an opportunity. And he is showing that, hey, with an opportunity, with preparation and getting out there and just going through reps, because that's how you got to kind of take your licks, right? It's you go out there, make mistakes. And then if you make mistakes, like, again, that Baltimore game was his taste. And again, that was wasn't even his first start. He just kind of came in there cold because, that was what happened. He was like, all right, well, here's NFL snaps. Then he came back next week, looked a little better. Came back the next week, looked a little better than that. And you also have some of these younger players who are around him, like Harold Fannin, who looks really good right now as a tight end in Cleveland. But for Shedeur Sanders, I think everybody understood that, he was more talented than, where he was taken in the draft. And, there was a lot of conversations and controversy about, is Shedeur a Haslam guy? Is Shedeur an Andrew Berry guy? Is Shedeur a Stefanski guy? It just feels like there's been a lot of pull and like a tug of war over Shedeur this season. But when all that, you just block out the noise, go on that football field and do your job. And Shedeur certainly has done that. And I've been really happy for him.
I'm happy for him too, man. And let's hear from Spencer German, and he'll tell us a little bit more about it.
It's official. Shedeur Sanders is the Cleveland Browns starting quarterback for the rest of the 2025 season. Kevin Stefanski making the announcement via his Monday Zoom press conference that he'll be sticking with Shedeur the rest of the way. No more trying to see Dylan. No more of the Deshaun Watson, will he play this season stuff, barring an injury, which let's hope that doesn't happen. We don't want anybody to get hurt. Shedeur Sanders will finish out the year as the starting quarterback. This is always the path that made the most sense. It's the path that I'm thankful that we get a chance to see. The way Shedeur has been playing, especially yesterday, 364 yards against the Titans, the 4 touchdowns. I know there's the blemish of the interception there, but the fact that he was able to rally and sort of erase that and make it an interesting game at the end where they could have tied it had they, kicked the PATs. We can debate all that stuff later. Like, that was as thrilling as a performance as you're going to get. And it was a sign that he's continuing to get better. He's continuing to make progress. He's making throws the other quarterbacks that have started this year just were not making or could not make.
All right, so that's where I want to stop because this turns into a whole bunch of other stuff. I am glad he got the chance. I'm glad he got the opportunity. I also think that he was underdrafted, way underdrafted. I also think that he was better than the Gabriel kid. I do. But there are some people out here that think and believe they're trying to sabotage him by playing him. And a lot of those people said they're trying to sabotage him by having him on the team when nobody else picked him. I'm just to the point where everything is not bad intent. Some things is just bad judgment. So I hope the kid plays his heart out, and not because I'm tired of hearing all of that stuff, but what it is I'm tired of hearing all of that stuff. And I heard it with Caleb Williams last year. Everybody want to talk about how indifferent he was and this, that, and the third, and his personality. And now Bears fans are quiet because you know what happens? Winning cures everything, right? And now he actually personified. He's like an Allen Iverson to Chicago. That's what he personifies this team with the gutsy play that he has. Sometimes you just got to let things play out. They have played out very well with the Bears. Here's Lauren Cox. Even though they lost, no moral victories, but this is just moral observation about a loss. Check this out.
One play. It all came down to one play. The difference between Caleb Williams being the hero or the villain in the Chicago Bears loss to the Green Bay Packers. And unfortunately, the game-sealing interception is going to be what sticks in people's mind, and it's going to overshadow some of the really impressive throws he made on the run in this game. He did so much to put this team in position to tie it or win it at the end, but an underthrown ball going for the end zone on 4th and 1 is going to be the most important play from this game. It shouldn't dishearten Chicago Bears fans. This team is still really good. They're still neck and neck, evenly matched with the Green Bay Packers. This was a playoff game in the regular season, renewing this NFC North rivalry, and makes it clear that both of these teams can make some noise in the postseason. And when they rematch again in 2 weeks, it'll be a coin toss once again. Lots to break down from Bears Packers over on the Locked On Bears podcast. Find it on YouTube or wherever you listen to podcasts.
Yeah, man, the Bears are for real. Even though they lost the game the other day, they still showed that they are a team that needs to be reckoned with.
Yeah, and I mean, this was a game they lost. I mean, obviously, no Roma Dunze in this one for Chicago, so that was a blow to their offense. But they have really impressed me this season, and they're a really fun team to watch too. Like, and especially with the maturation of how Caleb has kind of grown from year 1 to year 2, like you talked about, and part of that is just kind of gaining more confidence, having a full NFL offseason. And so going back to Shedeur, I'm actually excited to see what he can do with a full NFL offseason. But in Chicago, I mean, I'll say, because I was very much on this train, so I'm doing my best to right my wrongs here. Chicago was that team I wasn't thinking about in the NFC North. I was like, all right, you got Detroit and Green Bay and even Minnesota, and it was Chicago the whole time. I was like, maybe Chicago could make a run as maybe the 7 seed. Well, they're doing a lot better than the 7 seed this year. And again, you can take positives away from this loss for sure. I thought Caleb did a lot of good things. I thought the Bears did a lot of good things. The Packers also are a really good football team, and there's a lot of talent in that NFC North division. But I think with what we've seen, some of the resurgence, and I mean, Ben Johnson was the right hire. He was waiting for the right opportunity, taking himself out of coaching cycles and waiting for this to open up. And they waited too long, in my opinion, to get rid of Matt Eberflus, but man, it got him Ben Johnson, so I guess it all worked out in the end because it's been a home run hire.
Yeah, it has been a home run hire. What else was a home run hire that people keep forgetting about is Jim Harbaugh going to the Chargers. Sometimes you forget what record they have. And the fact that they actually won 11 games last year. Look like they're about to do it again. We'll discuss them and more in just a second here on Locked On NFL. All right, today's show is sponsored and brought to you by our friends over at FanDuel. NFL Sundays, they move really, really fast, man. One big play and suddenly everything feels different. That's what makes live betting with FanDuel so exciting. You're not just watching the game, you're reacting to it in real time. With FanDuel, you can place bets as the action unfolds, every drive, every momentum swing, every single highlight moment. Live betting is best when the game starts to shift, a receiver gets hot, a defense tightens up, or the momentum flips after a turnover and nobody knows your team like you. You can tell when they're getting into that funk or when things are getting hot. FanDuel lets you jump in to the moment and get you some Skrilla. Live spreads, money lines, they adjust instantly. Player props update as things heat up also. So if you want to be right in the middle of the action this season, visit FanDuel.com and place your NFL live bets all season long. FanDuel, the game moves fast. So can you. Moving and grooving here. Segment 2 on Locked On NFL. We got a 3-clipper here. That's right. You know what a 3-clipper is? That means usually we do 2 clips a segment. We're going to do 3 here, man. But I got to let y'all know about the Everydayer Club, Jack. Something a little extra for you, right? We want to thank you for making all of our shows your first listen of the day. You already live your dream every day now. Take it up a level and go ad-free. Join the Everydayer Club today and get either Locked On NFL, Locked On Ravens, Locked On Jaguars with no interruptions. Members only Discord access and more, all for just $5 a month or $50 a year. All right, so you can find that link at the end of the show wherever you get your podcast in the description. You'll also have a link and access to our merch, Locked On merch. You have access to it by being in the Everydayer Club. Okay, so moving forward with the Chargers. Look, man, they're quietly one of those teams that keeps winning, even if it doesn't look good all the time. And they are missing not only their 2 starting tackles. Well, I think Joe Alt came back, but they're still missing Rashawn Slater. But they're like, I think Alt got hurt again, didn't he? Or did he come back or is he hurt again, Kevin? I know at one point he came back. I thought then that he was out a second time. But what they're missing is the benefit of having both of those all-pro level players, because what that does is that really personifies who they are and who they want to be. Their first-round pick, he just came back off of IR, Omarion Hampton. So they've really been kind of limping around a little bit. And guess what? They're 9-4. They beat the Eagles last night. And here's my man Drogi, all happy about that victory.
The Chargers pick off Jalen Hurts 4 times, including the game winner in overtime. This is David Drugmeyer of the Locked On Chargers podcast, and the Chargers beat the Eagles to improve to 9-4, and the Chargers created turnovers all day, 5 of them. 4 interceptions, including the game winner by Tony Jefferson. Always seems to be in the right place at the right time, and he seals a big win. On offense, the Chargers got off to a hot start with a great touchdown to Omarion Hampton, the rookie returning. Looked pretty good tonight. Justin Herbert was abused. He got sacked 7 times, and it was ugly, but they did enough. They set up the drives to be able to tie this game and to be able to take the lead in overtime, and the defense stepped up and secured the win. The Chargers are not.
There you go, man. The Chargers, man, sitting there at 9-4, and the Eagles, we'll talk about them in segment 3. Don't even start on the Eagles, man. But the Chargers look like a surefire team to make the playoffs the second year in a row, man. If they could ever stay healthy, they might have them something in LA.
Yeah, and they are doing it without both. The Joe Alt's done for the year, so they are doing it without both their tackles. And yeah, I mean, that's part of the reason why Justin Herbert was sacked 7 times. They don't really have a great O-line right now, but just a lot of good stories on that. I mean, Tony Jefferson, like David talked about there, he was a scouting intern in Baltimore 2 years ago, and ended up coming out of retirement, signing with the Chargers. Obviously, there's the Harbaugh connection.
Sure
So
is.
there are a lot of former Ravens in LA right now, and Tony Jefferson again just got guys making plays, guys stepping up, and what a warrior Justin Herbert is. It's super cool. Hampton comes back and makes an impact. Like there are a lot of things you can take away from this Charger team in an AFC, which is, and it too, Wig. It is a weird AFC this year with all the teams at the top, teams at the bottom, teams that this team's going to the Super Bowl. Nope, they're not even going to make the playoffs this year. Like it's weird right now. And the Chargers in that AFC West, they're only 2 games behind Denver right now in terms of the win-loss. I mean, Denver's on a 10-game win streak at this point. So, I mean, Denver's just cleaning up. But that Chargers team feels like they could be a sneaky wild card team if they don't catch Denver, where, do I expect them to win the Super Bowl this year? I mean, they have a shot to. I'm not counting them out, because I think any team in the AFC that makes the playoffs has a shot this year. And I mean, if we see them play with the heart and the grit that we saw them play with against the Eagles, I think anything's possible.
You know what? They remind me of Indiana in college. When you ask yourself, what does Indiana do well? You go, everything. What do they do bad? Nothing. What are they great at? Nothing. But you know what they'll do? They'll line it up with you and go toe-to-toe with you, and it'll be a very, very close game. And then those intangibles they have, they usually can find a way to win it. Speaking of Denver Broncos, here's my man Cody Rourke talking about their win.
The Denver Broncos won their 10th straight game on Sunday, beating the Las Vegas Raiders to move into top place inside of the AFC and atop the division with a little bit more cushion as the Chargers and the Chiefs lurk behind them. Sunday's victory for the Denver Broncos against the Raiders saw R.J. Harvey and Bo Nix put together some impressive performances. Harvey nearly over 100 all-purpose yards, but scored his 9th overall touchdown of the season, helped the Broncos win this game. Marvin Mims came up big on the special team side here, but it was the command of Bo Nix and the offense that ultimately led to a dominant time of possession, 39 minutes over the Las Vegas Raiders compared to 20 for them on the field. Denver's defense, they bent a little bit, but they came up big in some of the bigger moments where they needed to get a stop, and they did just that. Denver now moves into the top spot inside of the AFC, and right now it's an exciting time for Broncos country. For more, make sure you check out Locked On Broncos.
Kevin, you say it's a weird year. It's not weird. You know what's happening? We're just seeing a change in power, brother. We're seeing a transition from the usual suspects in Baltimore and Kansas City to, you know what? Some new people like Denver and Jacksonville. That's what you're seeing.
Man, don't tell me that. Don't tell me that. I need for the AFC, especially like I'm very much in the boat of like I love parity, like because especially we know it, Wig, being in the AFC, going from the Patriots all those years with Brady and Belichick, and then you just immediately jump into Mahomes and the Chiefs. They're like, all right, I'm done with this dynasty stuff. Let's get some parity in here. Let's get some other teams going to the Super Bowl. So I love this, but other teams also include the Ravens. I'm just to say that right now. So hopefully. But again, like you're right, it's teams like Denver, the Patriots, et cetera, that are kind of changing of the guard here with really, really good young quarterbacks and great defenses. And so in Denver right now, I think the biggest question is the offense, and I think that we've seen Bo Nix step up at points. And has he been perfect this season? No, but that offense, even with guys like, because you wonder, like, who's in Denver's receiving group right now, not named Courtland Sutton? Well, it's guys like Pat Bryant, who's a rookie stepping up. And, Marvin Mims had a special teams touchdown last week. And, they're just finding ways to score points and win games. And when you have a defense like that, whether it's in Denver or a couple of these other great defenses, you don't have to play perfect offense. You don't have to have stars offensively, but we're also seeing R.J. Harvey step up as well. Is a lead back with J.K. Dobbins going down. So it's just these guys that, aren't household names at this point that are stepping up and meeting the moment for this Denver team. And I think it's really cool to see, because I think last year when they made it as the 7th seed and lost to Buffalo, you kind of thought, all right, not their year this year, obviously, but you can see the potential that this team has. And now we're seeing it in real time on display. And I think stories like that are really cool.
Yeah, they are really cool. And we're going to talk more about the Steelers and the Ravens. I won't say that for the end, but we're going to talk about up and down teams down the stretch. And we'll get to that here in the third and final segment of Locked On NFL. All right, today's show is sponsored by Mint Mobile. You know there's no reason to let big wireless drain your wallet, especially during the holidays. Right now, Mint Mobile is running their best deal of the year. All of their unlimited plans are 50% off. That means you can lock in 3, 6, or even 12 months of unlimited premium wireless for just $15 a month. That's right, $15 a month. It's the easiest way to take your overpriced phone bill and give it the full Scrooge treatment. And what makes this even better is how simple Mint makes the switch. No contracts, no nonsense, just real savings and real quality service. Turn your expensive wireless present into a big, huge wireless savings future by switching to Mint. Shop Mint unlimited plans at mintmobile.com/lockedonnfl. That's mintmobile.com/lockedonnfl. Limited time offer. Upfront payment of $45 for 3 months. $90 for 6 months, or $180 for 12 months. The plan required, that is $15 a month. That's what it equals to. Taxes and fees, initial plan term only. More than 35 gigabytes may slow when network is busy. Capable device required. Availability, speed, and coverage varies. See mintmobile.com. All right, let's get to up and down teams here as we close out the season. The Eagles, down bad. Listen to, after another loss to the Chargers, listen to my man Lou DiBiase. I think he's about done with that head coach up there. Check this out.
I don't know what to say. I mean, you can't overcome that many mistakes. I'm going to take the moral victory standpoint here, and you're probably going to roll your eyes. For an 8-5 team that's lost 3 straight, that looked as bad as they did on offense, the majority of this game, that has a lot of long-term concerns now suddenly about the head coach and quarterback. For me, I'm still going to take the high road. I'm still going to take the positive perspective, because just think about it. This football team had maybe the darkest moment in a long time in that first half. It felt bleak. It felt even worse than the 2023 collapse. And yet this defense refused to die, giving this offense a chance to go win this game time after time. This offense, Jalen Hurts having one of the worst performances I've seen from a quarterback since Carson Wentz in 2020, still refused to give up and made a lot of plays in the clutch at the end to give this team a chance. And yeah, he threw the ball away at the end. But this team has fight, and they're not going to collapse down the stretch.
Yeah, they're going to end up winning 11 games because they got Washington twice. And then they got the Raiders. They could go in the game with ice skates on and win both of those games, but they got that one game against Buffalo. The Eagles better figure it out real quick. If not, man, they're gonna have an early exit from the playoffs.
Yeah, we talked about how wide open the AFC is. Well, in that NFC, if you maybe get that. Eagles get the 4 seed, they win in the wild card. Then you got to go to LA to play the Rams. Man, the Rams are blowing the doors off these guys with the way they're playing right now. So you do have to figure it out quickly. And I wasn't expecting, the Eagles to all of a sudden be a team that we're talking about. Well, look at these concerns here. Like as Louis talked about it with the coach and the quarterback, for whenever you have 2 turnovers on the same play, you have to have a conversation. No, I don't care who you are. You have to have a conversation about that. Plus, that wasn't his only blunder of the day. Obviously, A.J. Brown, that's been a whole conversation this season, both on and off the field. So lots of drama in Philly right now. And I think, they're still probably going to win their division. I'd be pretty floored if they didn't. Yeah, I'd be pretty floored if they didn't. So, at this point, it just comes down to how this is a Super Bowl winning team last season. Like we know what they did, but how far of a fall off do they have to have for you to consider changes? I think go into a different sport like in the NBA, we've seen coaches win championships, then they're out the door less than 2 years later. Is that what we're going to start seeing in the NFL with some of these coaches? I'm curious to see if that's the new trend.
Well, the Eagles have done it before. They don't care.
Yeah.
They'll run you up out of here, man. They did it with Doug Peterson. Here's the thing about them not winning that division. They're going to be the 3rd or the 4th seed because Tampa acting like they don't want to win a division. In fact, they're tied with Carolina in the South. But here's what they'll run into. Whoever the 3 or the 4 seed, that first week, the Rams are going to get the bye. They got to play Seattle or they got to play Chicago. It is not. That's considering if the Rams and the Packers handle their business and move forward. Yeah. Good luck being the 3rd or the 4th seed in the NFC because you're going to play one of the best teams in the conference if you make it there. Now, we've been beating up on the Miami Dolphins all year and Mike McDaniel saying that it's over, but guess what? Don't look up now. They won 4 in a row. That is the up team down the stretch, and I think it's enough to save Mike McDaniel's job. Here's Kyle Krabs from Locked On Dolphins.
The Miami Dolphins came into New Jersey and decided to layeth the smacketh down on the New York Jets on the ground, running for nearly 250 yards against the Jets. That despite star running back Devon Achane going down in the first half after just 7 carries with a rib injury. The emergence of running back Jalen Wright as a second-year player for Miami is a major storyline for this team across the final 4 games because as Achane is or is not able to work his way back, Jalen Wright being able to carry the load in the way in which he did and create chunk runs and consistently stay ahead of schedule on in between the tackles runs is a major second pitch for Miami's now very explosive and dynamic running game as they look to continue their push back to 500 and potentially beyond.
Real quick, you think he saved his job with the way that they played down the stretch? Chris Greer's already gone, but I think Mike McDaniel's done enough for them to say, yeah, you can stay.
If they beat the Steelers this weekend, he can stay. He can stay. You rattle off 5 straight wins, Mike McDaniel, you're good with me.
It ain't got nothing to do with 5 straight. It's got something to do with who that 15 will be. Come on, Kevin, be honest. Be honest. It ain't got nothing to do with that. If they can win 7 straight, and you probably wouldn't have that opinion. It's just because they playing the Pittsburgh Steelers.
They can beat the Steelers and lose out, and he can keep his job. I don't. All
right, so check this out. Let's just get right to that. I'm gonna tell y'all right now why Kevin's saying that, and then I'll come back and let him have 3 whole minutes to tell you what's going on with the Ravens. I know what happened to him Sunday. Check out Chris Carter.
Hey everyone, Chris Carter here from the Locked On Steelers podcast with your post-game reaction to the Steelers' big-time 27-22 win over the Baltimore Ravens in Baltimore, advancing to 7-6, reclaiming first place in the AFC North. A huge win for the Steelers, a statement win in many ways. The Ravens were a team that were surging back. Lamar Jackson found his mobility again. Derrick Henry was getting to work. But Aaron Rodgers in this offense comes out and hits on at least 4 deep balls that opens up the rest of the offense, and it got things going, showing that the Steelers offense can find ways to win even when it's not running the ball well. That could be huge for the Steelers down the stretch of this season if they're able to get that passing game going. DK Metcalf had a spectacular day with Aaron Rodgers. The defense started strong, had some struggles through most of the second half, but finished strong with 2 straight stops. That's what you wanted. We'll break more of that down on the Locked On Steelers podcast. Find us on your favorite podcasting apps and on YouTube.
All right, I'm sorry you had to endure that, bro, but look, I can't play it Thursday when Chris comes. I couldn't even play your clip today because, well, you're sitting right here, right? So I just don't want you to think I'm talking bad behind your back. I'm going to just go ahead and let it out right now. And I'm surprised that you've been around me long enough to know I wasn't going to let that little slick stuff you tried to pull off. Yeah, he could keep the job if he wins this week. I know exactly why you were saying that. But listen, tell me what is going on with Baltimore, man. They look old, dog.
Yeah, it's tough. And I think what this game told me about both these teams, honestly, is neither of them are going anywhere this year.
Wait, hold on, wait. So Pittsburgh won. You can't just talk about Baltimore. You got to throw Pittsburgh in there with you too. You got to say we ain't going nowhere.
Do you know who you're talking to? How many times have I thrown Cincinnati and Cleveland in the conversation on the NFC team? Like, this is the AFC North we're talking about right here. So I will say this: the Ravens and the Steelers. There is no path to me where there's more than one AFC North team to make the playoffs this year. We've talked about that. And obviously with, teams like Buffalo, Chargers, teams, whoever doesn't win the South between Jacksonville and Houston, Indy's still in the hunt, even though Daniel Jones is done for the season. Like, so many teams are in that hunt. And plus, for Baltimore's sake, they've lost so many tiebreakers to those teams. Like, there's no shot. So the only way that either of those two teams make the playoffs, in my opinion, is through the division. But the problem Baltimore continues to have is just inconsistency across the board. They started so slow in this game. Pittsburgh could not throw deep balls like Chris talked about over the last month of the season. They couldn't throw deep balls. And what does Baltimore do? They allow 1 billion yards on deep. Aaron Rodgers almost had 300 yards passing in this game. He looked like prime Aaron Rodgers with his legs. They allowed him to score a touchdown on a rollout play, which we're not talking about 25-year-old, we're almost talking about 45-year-old Aaron Rodgers at this point. So, the offensive line still is horrendous. They couldn't even get one singular sack on Aaron Rodgers. And Wig, I'll tell you this last year, this team was the number one red zone offense, converting almost 75% of their opportunities in the red zone. This year, they're the third worst red zone team in the league. They fell below 45% conversion rate after their performance in this one. So they're leaving points on the board. And yes, there were controversial calls in this game. 3 of them went against Baltimore. 1 of them, the NFL admitted they got it wrong. But you can't let it come down to those plays. You can't let it get to a point where the refs influence the game like that. And, while the refs did influence the game, Baltimore also just didn't play well enough. And now you have a stretch for the Ravens where you play Cincinnati, Patriots, Packers, and Steelers. That's a tough stretch.
It is a super tough stretch, man. We'll continue to monitor and watch the AFC North. They play Pittsburgh and Baltimore actually play again, correct?
Yep, last game of the season.
All right, so I think it's going to be for all the marbles. Thanks for tuning in today to Locked On NFL, Locked On Ravens, and Locked On Jaguars. Did either of those shows make your Spotify Wrapped? Prove it on social media to secure a free month of our brand new Everyday Club. Just tag our national Locked On Podcast Network account on any social platform, and we'll drop you a code. Be one of the first to join the Everyday Club to get your favorite show ad-free and exclusive access to the members-only Discord channel, also to Locked On merch. We appreciate you joining us, me and Kevin Oestreicher, always wilding out here on a Tuesday. Thank y'all. We don't take it for granted. 32 minutes. That's what you got from us today. We'll see you tomorrow here on Locked On NFL.